Hi everyone, and welcome to the Hearth of Hymonia. We're here again at the Saturnalia festival. I can't believe we've reached the end of another year here on the channel. So thank you all for staying with me, thank you all for being here, I really appreciate it, and welcome to those of you who are new, because we did get a lot of new people signing up to pay attention to this channel, so thank you and welcome. I say this every year, but really this time of year is so incredibly busy for me. Major projects are winding down, and we are in the full throes of Christmas preparations. And if you've been around for a little while, you will know that I don't live near my family, so every year at this time I am preparing to go on a big trip up north to see all my family members. And so I have to do all of my Christmas shopping and my preparation and my packing all during this time. So I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit. But I wanted to drop in and just take a second to reflect on this year and to celebrate the Saturnalia festival just a little bit. One of the customs of the Saturnalia festival was to joke around, to tell jokes to each other, to make witty comments, and to generally try and have as much fun and kooky, wacky activity as possible. And so I thought what I would do today is I would bring you some ancient jokes. I'm using two texts today, and you can find both of those in the description down below. The first, no surprise, is Macrobius's Saturnalia. This is a text from the 5th century CE. It's a little bit later than what I typically talk about on this channel, but it is, as the name implies, a discussion about the Saturnalia and other things. It takes the form of a dialogue or a symposium-style text. So if you've read Plato's Symposium, a bunch of people gather together to talk about things, and their dinner discussion is the body of the text. So that's what we have with Macrobius's Saturnalia. A bunch of people gather at the house of a man named Praetextatus, and they talk about all sorts of different things. A number of famous people attend this party, including Servius, who is a very famous commentator on the works of Virgil. And a good portion of the text is devoted to discussing Virgil and his writing. But what we're going to focus on today is Book 2, when all of the guests decide that they're going to go around and repeat witty or clever sayings of historical figures. And when I say historical, I mean figures that would have been ancient to them, would have been ancient in Macrobius's time. People like Cicero, even as far back as Hannibal, even as far back as Demosthenes. And this is how the dinner guests are going to participate in this particular Saturnalia custom of sharing jokes. They find that the humor that usually goes around this time of year is a little bit too crass for them, so they want to elevate it because they're philosophers, and we all know philosophers are just so much more elevated and elegant than all the rest of the people in antiquity. So they would have us believe. So anyway, the guest that sets up this idea is Symmachus, and he says, quote, "At the Saturnalia, best of days, as the poet of Verona says," he's talking about Catullus here, "I take it that we should neither imitate the Stoics and repel pleasure as a foe, nor follow the Epicureans and make pleasure the highest good. Let us then make humor without impropriety our aim. And, unless I'm mistaken, I think I have found out how to do this. I suggest that we relate to one another a selection of the jests of famous men of old." And so they begin, and I wanted to share a couple of these with you. Now, mind you, most of these ancient witty jests would be not that funny to us. In part because of cultural differences, especially when I get into the second text, there's lots of jokes about, like, slavery and killing yourself and all kinds of things that, I personally find distasteful. But also a lot gets lost in translation, so we're not going to have access to certain puns and things like that. So I'm keeping it very general. I've selected ones that I think translate a little bit better than some of the others. So without further ado, here's some jokes from Macrobius's Saturnalia. One of the guests, Flavianus, brings a jest of Cato's to the table. He says, "In the days of old," he said, "there used to be a sacrifice known as for the road, and it was custom at it for everything left over from the sacrificial feast to be burned. Hence the point of a jest of Cato's. For, when a certain Albidius, after devouring all his property, finally lost by fire the house which was all that remained to him of his possessions, Cato observed that it was, quote, a sacrifice for the road, since the man had burned what he could not have devoured." So there's Cato kicking a man while he's down. And then we have one from Eusebius. He says, "Demosthenes, attracted by the fame of Laius, whose beauty at that time was the wonder of Greece, went to enjoy her vaunted favors himself. But when he heard that her company for a single night would cost him half a talent, he went away, saying, 'I find that too high a price to pay for what I should regret.'" And then the last one I'm going to share from Macrobius' Saturnalia comes from Symmachus himself, so the one who proposed this activity. He gives a long list of jests and jabs that Cicero used when he was speaking publicly. So this is one of them. Symmachus says, "The consulship of Vatinius, which lasted for only a few days, gave Cicero an opportunity for some humorous sayings which had wide currency. Vatinius's term of office," he said, "has presented a remarkable portent. For in his consulship there has been neither winter, spring, summer, nor autumn." And again, when Vatinius complained that Cicero had found it too much trouble to come and see him in his sickness, he replied, "It was my intention to come while you were consul, but night overtook me." I want to turn now to the second text that I'm bringing to you today, which is called the Philogelos, which means literally something like love of laughter. It's a little bit earlier than Macrobius. It maybe was published in the 4th century CE, although its history is a little bit murky, and it does claim to be a joke book compiled from all periods of Greek and Roman history. It's sometimes called the world's oldest joke book. So it's a collection of jokes, and they center around kind of stock characters. If you're familiar with Greek or Roman comedy, you will get these stock characters. The arrogant soldier, the bumbling elderly person, the tricky slave, the profligate son, any of these characters that are used over and over and over again to tell different stories. So that's how this joke book is constructed. There's the dumb student, the quick-witted guy, the miser, the lusty lady. So there's all these, and then like different places. So like making fun of people from this city or that city. So I've pulled a few of these to share with you. Like I said, most of them will be lost in translation, or we just wouldn't find them that funny. Like jokes about hanging yourself, not really my cup of tea. If that is your cup of tea, I've got a joke book for you. But anyway, I have just a few that I wanted to share with you. Two student dunces are taking a walk together. One of them spots a blackbird and remarks, "Brother, that bird's mate is probably dead. That's why she's wearing black." The next one. Two student dunces undertake a journey on foot. One of them is left a little behind when he stops to answer nature's call. When he reaches the milestone, he finds written on it a message from the other. "Catch up with me." So beneath that message, the straggler writes, "No, you wait for me." I think some of these are funnier if you imagine them as maybe like a comic strip. And then the last one. A student dunce's farm agent reports that the river has taken his entire property. "No fair," shouts the dunce, "I'll sue." And they all kind of go on like that. Misunderstandings, someone not quite getting it, people behaving in a kind of stereotypical way. And then, of course, if you're on the internet, you will have heard a couple of jokes about antiquity. Julius Caesar walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a martinus." The bartender says, "Don't you mean a martini?" And Julius Caesar says, "If I wanted a double, I would have asked." There's a little Latin grammar joke for you. Julius Caesar walks into a bar and says, "I'll have 5 martinis, please." If anyone has any more jokes about antiquity or knows about any more jokes from ancient texts that you want to share, write them in the comments down below. I'm sure they're funnier than any of the ones that I found or came up with. But I just wanted to share a little bit in that Saturnalia tradition. Now, I just want to take a little bit of time to reflect on the last year, in particular with this channel. So like I said, there's a lot of new people here, and again, welcome if you have joined us this year. There's now over 4,000 people subscribed to this channel, which is pretty cool. I find this stuff really interesting, and I'm glad that other people do as well. So welcome, and thanks for joining along. In last year's Saturnalia video, I listed some personal study goals that I was working towards, and I want to share in particular about the goal of improving my Latin. So I've been studying Latin since I was 14 years old, maybe even a little bit earlier, and even though I have a lot of familiarity with it, there's still always things to improve. And one of my goals was to improve my I don't want to say fluency, but my ability to read quickly and to understand as much as is possible in 2025 to understand Latin as it is spoken. And so 2 of the things that I did this year towards that goal were to read from Lingua Latina per se illustrata, which if you're trying to learn Latin, I would, above any other book, I would recommend this book. The reason is because it's a graduated reader. So it starts out, chapter 1 is Roma est in Italia. In Italia, Roma est. Roma urbs est, and it goes on and on like that with very simple vocabulary so that you can kind of get the ball rolling. And especially if you are a native English speaker or you speak a Romance language, that will be familiar enough to you that you can just start reading it. And all of the instruction is in Latin, but it's simplified so that even if you're a beginner, you can just kind of launch into it. So that's the text that I've been reading from. I've sort of gotten away from it in recent months because I've been so busy, but I did that for maybe the first half of the year, and it really improved my Latin. Just a couple minutes every day, just getting the ball rolling. And then the second thing I did, which I made a big deal about in last year's video, is I listened to creators on YouTube who are way better at Latin than I am, who actually are able to speak it. And I think I mentioned both of these by name, but I'll mention them again. Scorpio Martianus, who, if you're into Latin content, you will know Scorpio Martianus is one of the most famous ones. And then my personal favorite, someone I've been listening to for well over a decade, is Fiant Lapides. Highly, highly recommend both of these channels. I've been listening especially to Fiant Lapides a whole lot more, and I find that even though I'm not getting every single word, especially when texts are from either the medieval period or even early modern, there's a lot of vocabulary that is kind of outside my wheelhouse, I am able to pick up on more than I ever was before. So I'm hoping to continue this into the new year and, once again, keep the ball rolling on the Latin. And eventually I will go back and work on my Greek. But Greek and I have a very contentious relationship, so I'm leaving it for now. Okay, enough rambling about Latin. This year, I basically did 2 big projects on the channel. The Halloween series about the Medea story, which was something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm so happy with the way that it turned out, and there's still so much more to say about Medea. That's one thing about that story that keeps me coming back. Every time I read it, I find more questions, more things to look into, more things that I never noticed before. I found a new translation of Euripides' Medea that I really like. I'll link that down below too, but that you can get that with the Medea series as well. It's written in verse, and I really, really, really like it to show kind of what it would have been like to sit in the theater and listen to a play like that. It's almost Shakespearean in the way that it's translated. It's just fabulous. So that was great. I got to finally complete my Halloween costume enough to be worn. It is not done. It is not done, but I'm happy with where it's at right now, and I can keep stitching away and finish it up, hopefully for next year. And I got to experiment with some new formats, some new elements of the video. I got to film the little segments where I was acting out some of the things, and I used a lot of stock footage to produce dramatizations of parts of the text, which is something that I like watching videos like that, so I was trying my hand at that, and I think it came out pretty good. So that was by far the most fun I had on the channel this year. Maybe the least fun I had, I shouldn't say that. I really enjoyed producing the Apollonius of Tyana series, but man, it was a lot of work. And I'm sure as a consumer of the content, it was dense and demanding. And that's what that text is. It was my first time getting into it. I started the series last year and I finished it up at the beginning of this year. And it's just 300 pages of really dense, really interesting information. And it was absolutely worth it in the end, because I don't know if you have noticed the question of what should philosophers, what should responsible citizens do in the face of tyranny has somehow, for no particular reason, become quite relevant. And so it's absolutely worth it to dig into that text. If you didn't watch that series, I would recommend you watching it. If you haven't read that text, I would absolutely recommend you read it. It is a masterclass in how to stand up for your ideals. Going into this series, I really thought that we were going to be talking about Apollonius of Tyana's magical powers, and that was going to be the bulk of the series. But as I went through the text and as I was putting it together, it just became apparent that the philosophy, and in particular the political philosophy, was the most important part of the story. And now that we have that as an artifact on our channel, we can go back and review what Philostratus was trying to tell us, what Apollonius was modeling, and what maybe we can do if in some hypothetical situation there was an authoritarian takeover of our home country, in my case, the United States. So those were the major things about the channel this year. On a personal note, it has been a very difficult year for me, watching my country fall apart and watching us abandon our ideals in favor of true, honest-to-God, ancient, classical tyranny. Every day waking up to the new horrors it's taking a toll on all of us. I know it is. So if you live in the US, as I do, I'm here with you, and we're all going to get through this together. It is going to take courage and bravery. If you are not living in the States, if you're living in the UK or Australia, as I know some of you are, or any other place that has in recent history been allied with the United States, just understand that we are not all, we're not all on board with this. And so please keep us in your thoughts and prayers as much as you can. And somehow, hopefully, we will all get through this together. And that's all I have to say about that. This year has also brought a lot of really wonderful, wonderful things into my life. Most recently, and perhaps the highlight of my year, Joe, if you're watching, this is the highlight of my year. 2 of my best friends got married, and it is maybe the most beautiful wedding I have ever attended. And we got to host some of our friends in this very room. I made over this room with the intention of having people come and stay with me because most of my loved ones are far away. And just only a week and a half ago, I had friends staying in this room. It was just such a beautiful time for all of us, for the bride and groom, obviously, but for all of us who love them. So that really was one of the most exciting and special moments in the year for me personally. The last few months have also brought additional busyness to my life. I've started a new job that is taking up more of my time, and it's good. I love it. I love what I do, but I am being pulled in all sorts of different directions now, especially during the holidays when I have all this extra holiday preparation to do. And so I've been just extraordinarily busy, and I'm tired, and I'm cranky, but I'm happy to be busy. It's good to be busy. I hope that you're all busy as well. Not too much, but it's good to keep yourself occupied. And so my days have just been absolutely filled from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep. And that brings me to my plans for the channel next year in 2026. Just given how things have been going, I'm not going to be able to produce everything that I was hoping to produce next year on the channel. So I have a really big series planned for next year, and I want to make that as good as I possibly can. I want to devote as much time as I can to it and to make it the best possible content that I can, because I think the topic is really interesting. So to that end, I am actually not going to upload any videos until that series starts. I'm planning to launch it sometime in March. So in January and February, you will not hear from me, either here or on Instagram, which I'm not really posting on because social media is post-apocalyptic at this point. So I'm not going to be posting any new content next month or the following month, even though I had planned to. I'm going to instead spend what little free time I now have to produce this new series, and I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I will make an announcement about it as the time gets closer. So look out for me sometime in March, and I'll let you know what's going on. And then, of course, later in the year, we will have more of our usual content, certainly something for Vestalia, certainly something fun and interesting for Halloween, and little things here and there as I'm able. So that's my plan for the channel for next year. Stay tuned until March, and I will bring you what I hope is a really awesome series. So in conclusion, I again just want to thank you all for hanging out with me on this channel and discussing things that I find intensely interesting. I'm grateful for every comment, all of the likes and shares and subscriptions, but especially the comments. You know how I feel about that. I always talk about how much I love hearing from you and learning. People give me book recommendations, people make corrections on things. We're working with so much volume of material that it's good to have lots of eyes on it to catch things that I miss. And just discoursing, especially about people's personal experiences. I know a lot of people who watch this channel practice either some form of paganism or witchcraft. And so it's always really beneficial to me to hear all of that stuff from you. So I'm really, again, just grateful for you taking the time to write out your thoughts. And with that, I'm going to wind down our last video of the year. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, whichever basket of holidays you'll be celebrating, especially Saturnalia, which is taking place this week. I hope that you're all enjoying a little bit of fun, and I hope you have a wonderful new year. I will see you not at the start of the new year, but I'll see you very soon. And so that's it for me. I have to go pack. I'm leaving in a couple days. So thank you all for watching. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and I will see you soon.